Hola clase. I wanted to do a quick tip video for you on the VHL, which is your online textbook. There's a bit to learn there, but I think if I give you a few tips on this, it'll make you getting used to it a little easier. First thing I want to tell you is that um, when you go into VHL and click that little start button, don't go with the order that's along the top of your assignments there. Unfortunately, I don't know why the publisher did it this way, but really the order that they put up there doesn't make sense. First thing you want to do is start with vocabulary, which is all the way at the end. So do the vocabulary first, work on the vocab. Then you can move to the front and do the preparation and the pronunciation. And then after that, move and do grammar 1, grammar 2, grammar 3, grammar 4. There's always 4 grammar points in every unit. And then when you finish that, then go and do the 3 culture portions, okay? If you keep that order, things are going to make a lot more sense. You don't want to start listening to culture in Spanish when you haven't learned the vocabulary yet. There's a few things in VHL that are helpful. One of them is in Spanish you have to use accent marks. VHL is going to count your answers wrong if you don't use accent marks. So you don't have to go to the code for this and look for the code for accent marks and on your computer. There's little buttons on the bottom of your screen, and there's little letters with accent marks on them. So when you need an accent mark, you just click on those little buttons on the bottom of the screen. Another nice feature that VHL has is that they have electronic flashcards. If you go to content and down to vocabulary tools, there's flashcards there and they're great. A nice thing about them is that if you say you know it, it's not going to test you on that word again. Vocabulary is very important in Spanish. It's not going to do you any good when you get on to later chapters or in Spanish 2 and you know all the grammar if you don't know the vocabulary. You're going to go to a test and you're going to say, I know this grammar, I studied it, but I don't know any of these words, so I can't figure it out. So you have to study vocabulary, make sure you're doing a little bit of it every day, and that you're always reviewing former chapters. Another thing I wanted to tell you is that in the videos, the cultural videos, if you go to the bottom of the screen, there's a little box. If you click on it, you'll have options for English transcripts, Spanish transcripts, English closed captions, and Spanish closed captions. And so what I would suggest that you do is before you listen to those culture videos, that you read the transcript in English, and then next listen to the video with the Spanish closed caption, and then try listening to it without any closed captions. If you need more times of any of those, or if you need to add the English closed captions or the Spanish transcripts, then do that. But make sure that at the very end of all that you do, that you're listening to it without the closed captions. And you want to make sure that what you're hearing is you're understanding. You may not understand every word or everything they say, but understand most of it, 90% of it. If you're only understanding like 50%, then you need to do a little bit more work beforehand and looking at those transcripts and looking at those closed captions. Say everything out loud. Every exercise that you do in VHL, every vocabulary word, say it out loud, say it out loud, say it out loud. That's how you learn a language. You guys are not living in a South American country where Spanish is used regularly around you. Some of you might have Latinos in your family or friends that you might be able to practice with, but for the most part, most of you aren't going to have many opportunities to practice, except when you're doing that VHL work. I can tell midterm when you do your oral presentation, I can tell those of you who haven't been saying it out loud. Whatever comes out of your mouth is going to be very uncomfortable. It's going to almost hurt, and you don't want that. You want to get to where you it just flows out of your mouth very easily. Then the last thing I wanted to point out from there is that this semester we are going to use HonorLock, which is a virtual proctoring service for the final exam. And so rather than shock you with that at the final, I'm going to use it on the practice tests. We're going to start with one and see how it goes. And on the unit test, sorry. And so what I've done is I've opened up the test on VHL as practice that you can take first, and you can take it twice with no time limit. Take your time on those because those proctored unit tests look almost exactly like those ones on VHL. So if you do well on the VHL, you do well on those. Make sure that you study for the tests ahead of time. Don't go into it with an open book and try to manage it that way. You need to memorize the vocabulary, learn the grammar, and then take the test. Okay, do that with the practice, and then when you take the honor lock test, then you should do really well on it. Okay, so that's enough for